Hangman Page vs. Swerve Strickland will go down in history as one of the best death matches of all time. You know when you're watching a match when you're witnessing something special, especially if you watch a lot of wrestling. As much as I love wrestling, there's something formulaic to all of it, especially with AEW. They love to do random matches every week and expect people to be excited for it, but what people really want in wrestling is drama and spectacle. They miss storylines and blood feuds. They want to see people tear each other apart, not have some sort of athletic ballet. These two had a standout match at WrestleDream and are now prepared to tear each other apart after Swerve broke into Hangman's home to terrorize his family. You don't need me to tell you how home invasions have led to some of the most memorable feuds in wrestling history, and this home invasion would go on to set the stage for one of the most brutal wrestling matches of 2023. The match begins instantly with Page storming the ring to attack Swerve Strickland. This is the type of thing you want to see. This is what I feel like a lot of wrestling is missing nowadays. Two guys who absolutely want to kill each other. This match isn't even for a title belt and it feels like it has stakes. Hangman hits his finisher immediately on Swerve, hyping up the crowd. The crowd is on fire for this match. Also, the buckshot Lariat he hit is really good. Sometimes he doesn't get all of it and it looks sloppy. Funny enough, people say that Logan Paul has a better one. And while I agree, I've also seen him not quite get all of it just like Hangman does. So I thought that was a funny parallel that they both have good and bad versions of the same move. Hangman hits Swerve in the head with a chair and starts wrapping him in duct tape. There are little subtle things that make this deathmatch better than most that I've seen. But this time you can actually see the staples in Swerve's flesh. It sets the stage of events to come in this match and is actually pretty hard to watch. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a death match and just felt nothing because it's usually two guys hitting each other over the head with light tubes. There's usually no storytelling or excitement, and while this isn't always the case, it's just what I usually see from time to time. Hangman staples Swerve's mouth, and it's one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen. This match is not for the squeamish at all, and I can hear some wrestling fans now criticizing this match that it goes too far, but isn't that the point? Taking things to the next level. I mean, there's levels of violence in this match that we honestly should probably never see again. In my opinion, Hangman drinking Swerve's blood could go on to be a moment that defines him, just like this next moment could define Swerve. In one of the most sick and sadistic moments, Swerve has had enough and just starts no-selling the staples and even stapling himself. But seeing the sadistic look on Swerve's face as he starts stapling himself is truly one of the most terrifying things I've ever seen in a death match. Swerve throws Hangman headfirst into the barbed wire chair. He then gets a strand of barbed wire and starts carving up Hangman. Swerve plants Hangman on his skull right into a cinder block, setting up the first attempt at a 10 count. Hangman gets up at 4. Probably one criticism I have is they probably should have let that play out a little longer. Getting up on 4 after that move is a little fast, but that's a pretty significant problem in AEW altogether, with match paces moving a little faster than they should. Speaking earlier on the fact that these two are good wrestlers is the fact that they're both able to stand on this guardrail and perform a pile driver. People don't realize just how shaky guardrails can be, especially with all those fans leaning on it. Hangman is now covered in blood and hulking up as the two wrestle for a bit. Hangman slams the barbed wire into Swerve's face. Once again, this is something you probably wouldn't notice unless you watch a lot of deathmatch wrestling like I do. The way the barbed wire connects to his face is truly brutal looking. You see spots like this a lot where it doesn't even look like they're cutting them, but the way he slams it onto his face with such malice is so intense and provocative, like he's trying to kill the man. You love to see it, honestly. Like, I know every match can't be like this, but I love the visceral nature of these two that just hate each other and are willing to do whatever it takes to destroy the other person. Hangman begins to wrap the barbed wire around Swerve and gives a fallaway slam. This is even more brutal when you realize just how real the barbed wire actually is later on in the match. Hangman goes to the top rope and does a moonsault with a barbed wire chair just like John Morrison did at WrestleMania 28. You just see a pool of blood next to Swerve too. Absolutely disgusting. Good wrestling from the two, followed up by a big boot right into the steel chair. Hangman hits one of the most disgusting looking tombstone pile drivers onto the barbed wire steel chair. Hopefully these two men are okay after this match because once again, you see Swerve's head actually hit the chair. It's one of the most real looking tombstones I've ever seen. Everything in this match has felt real so far. Hangman blasts Swerve with a barbed wire steel chair. You later realize exactly how painful this is a few moments later when Swerve hits Hangman in the back with the barbed wire and is caught in Hangman's hair and mouth. You hear an audible gasp from the crowd as this happens. Truly barbaric stuff. Swerve then gives Hangman a powerbomb onto the chair and hits his finisher. It's all the more sickening when you realize just how real the barbed wire is. I don't know if AEW has ever used fake barbed wire. It's kind of hard to tell. Not that I have anything against fake barbed wire when it's used right. I mean, I'm so desperate for WWE to use barbed wire that I'll even take whatever this thing is supposed to be that was used in the Becky Lynch match. Now, Swerve pours what looks like broken beer bottles on the Hangman's back, and this part is a little dumb to me, honestly, because he hits a 450 splash onto the glass when something like a stomp would have hurt his opponent way worse and not hurt Swerve at all. Swerve then hits his absolutely devastating looking finisher on Hangman. Looks like it would be easy to break someone's neck doing this move. This is the first time that Hangman stays down for a count longer than 4. Which is one small complaint I have, where I think WWE does last man standing matches better. And don't get me wrong, I get it. Last man standing matches have always had this problem where they can mess up the pacing of a match. Fans don't really want to sit and wait for the referee to count after every single move. Hangman hits a fallaway slam moonsault onto the barbed wire, but takes things even further by hitting a powerbomb onto the barbed wire, followed up by his finisher. If that wasn't bad enough, Hangman starts to wrap the barbed wire around Swerve's neck and mouth, getting another audible gasp from the crowd. Hangman hits another really good-looking buckshot lariat, nearly knocking out Swerve, who looks like the Sandman from ECW at this point. Prince Nana saves him, getting a pop from the crowd, as the biggest blunder in the match happens when everyone's favorite generic Creed superstar, Brian Cage, comes out for some reason. Like I said earlier, I haven't been following AEW, so I don't know why these two are feuding. Maybe it's because they both have lariats, I don't know, but Cage couldn't have picked a worse time to interfere in the match. Luckily, however, this wasn't the finish of the match, and thank God for that, because this would have ruined the match in my opinion. Hangman takes out Cage with the barbed wire, and if fans knew how to feel about Brian Cage, they would know whether they wanted to boo him being attacked or cheer him being attacked, but this man has been dead in the water for so long now. This is followed up by the exact opposite when someone who is actually over, Prince Nana, gets put through a table to a huge roar from the crowd. Then, out of nowhere, Swerve blasts Hangman in the back with a cinder block. Cinder blocks are kind of give and take to me. They have every reason to be one of the most brutal weapons in wrestling, and rightfully are. They've nearly killed people before, but the way they comically explode into dust never looks good to me. The next spot is way better as Swerve wraps a chain around Hangman's neck and attempts to hang him live on TV. I feel like this should have been the end of the match. He should have held onto the chain as Hangman passed out and the referee called the match via submission. However, the ending they went with was just as good because Hangman tries to get up at the 8 count but can't do it. This shows that Hangman still had fight in him even after all this. All in all, I would say this is without a shadow of doubt one of the best hardcore death matches of all time. Would I say it's the best? No, absolutely not, and that's not to take anything away from it because, like I said, it's truly spectacular. And honestly, as messed up as it is to say, I sort of wish they would run it back and do it again. As for the hardcore matches I would say that are better than this, I don't think this quite topped Edge versus Mick Foley at WrestleMania, or even Pentagon Jr. versus Vampiro from Lucha Underground, but I think it was close. I think it really needed a big flaming table spot to end on, but you can't fault them for having the ending that they did. These two wrestlers have such great chemistry that I feel like they could have a great match in any kind of match, and hopefully this isn't the last time we see these two wrestle. I think this match created stars out of both of these men, and I look forward to seeing what the future holds for these two.